Scrum Methodology, Episode 3. Scrum Events. Sprint, Sprint Planning, Daily Scrum, Sprint Review, Sprint Retrospective. Scrum events include the sprint planning, where you plan the activities of the sprint, the daily scrum, a short daily synchronizing meeting, the sprint review, a demo of completed features, and the sprint retrospective, a reflection on the sprint just concluded to improve the process. Sprint. A sprint is a fixed unit of time during which the development team works to deliver an increase in value to the product. The sprint is an iterative and repeatable phase within the Scrum framework and represents a sort of time box, during which the team commits to completing a set of activities. A sprint in Scrum represents a time-limited unit of work, with clear goals and an expected delivery of value at the end. This iterative approach allows the development team to adapt to changes, obtain regular feedback from stakeholders, and deliver incremental product value increases. Sprint key points. Duration. A sprint has a fixed and predefined duration which is established at the start of the project or during sprint planning. The typical duration of a sprint can range from a week to a month, but the choice depends on the needs of the team and the complexity of the project. Goal. Each sprint has a specific goal that is defined during sprint planning. The goal represents what the development team strives to achieve during the sprint and can be based on product backlog priorities or a specific stakeholder request. Sprint backlog. At the beginning of each sprint, the development team selects a set of items from the product backlog that will be addressed during the sprint. These items are entered into the sprint backlog, which is the list of activities and user stories to be completed during the sprint. Focused work. During the sprint, the development team engages in focused work to complete the tasks in the sprint backlog. It focuses on the sprint goal and uses his skills and expertise to develop, test, and deliver increased value to the product. Daily Scrum. During the sprint, the development team meets daily for the Daily Scrum, a short sync meeting to update progress, address any roadblocks, and align on daily goals. Sprint Review. At the end of the sprint, the development team presents the increment of work completed during the sprint review. During this review, feedback from stakeholders is collected and the developed features are evaluated. Sprint Retrospective. After the sprint review, the development team meets for the sprint retrospective. During this meeting, the team reflects on the sprint experience, identifies opportunities for improvement, and defines corrective actions for future sprints. Sprint planning. Sprint planning is a key event within the Scrum framework that occurs at the start of each sprint. During sprint planning, the development team and the product owner collaborate to define the sprint goals and plan the activities necessary to achieve them. The sprint planning process helps create a common understanding of the goals, priorities, and activities to be performed during the sprint. Sprint planning provides the development team with a solid foundation to initiate work and maximize the value delivered during the sprint. Sprint planning key points. Duration. Sprint planning takes place at the beginning of each sprint and has a limited duration, usually between 1 and 4 hours, depending on the length of the sprint and the needs of the team. Participants. Participants in the sprint planning include the development team, the product owner and, at the discretion of the team, the Scrum Master and other interested stakeholders. Sprint goals. During sprint planning, the product owner presents the business or product goals that the development team must achieve in the sprint. These goals provide a clear view of the required features or improvements. Product backlog. The product owner shares the product backlog with the development team during sprint planning. The development team works with the product owner to understand which user stories or product backlog items to include in the sprint. User stories and tasks. The development team selects user stories or product backlog items that it can complete in the sprint. Next, they break these user stories down into smaller, more manageable tasks. These tasks represent the specific activities that the development team must perform to complete the user stories. Estimate. During sprint planning, the development team estimates the tasks needed to complete the selected user stories. These estimates can be made using techniques such as relative estimation or poker planning. Estimates help the development team understand the extent of the work and plan how much work to take on in the sprint. Team capacity. The development team evaluates its available work capacity for the sprint. This is done by considering historical team speed, availability of team members, and other relevant factors. This helps establish how much work can be taken on in the sprint. Defining the sprint backlog. At the end of the sprint planning, the development team defined the sprint backlog. This is a list of selected items from the product backlog that the team commits to complete in the sprint. The sprint backlog also includes the tasks needed to complete the selected items. Daily Scrum. The daily Scrum, also known as a stand-up meeting, is a short daily meeting held in the context of Scrum. It is a fundamental event that allows the development team to synchronize, share information and align on the state of work. The daily Scrum promotes regular communication and transparency within the development team, allowing for early identification of any obstacles or deviations from the plan. This daily meeting fosters team collaboration and adaptation for sprint success. Daily Scrum key points. Frequency and duration. The daily Scrum is held every day during the sprint, usually at the same time and place. The duration is limited to 15 minutes, although it can vary according to the needs of the team. Participants. Participants in the daily Scrum are the development team, the product owner and the Scrum Master. Some teams may also invite other stakeholders to join as observers, but the meeting is primarily for the development team. Stand-up mode. The term, stand up, comes from the fact that the meeting is conducted standing up. This helps keep the meeting short and focused, encouraging attendees to be concise and address any obstacles. Objective. The daily Scrum focuses on exchanging information around three main questions. What did I do yesterday to reach the sprint goal? What do I intend to do today to achieve the sprint goal? Are there any obstacles or problems that could prevent me from reaching the sprint goal? Development team focus. During the daily Scrum, each development team member briefly shares the status of their work by answering three questions. It's not a time for in-depth discussions or detailed solutions, but rather to provide a quick overview and identify any roadblocks that need attention. Synchronization and adaptation. The daily Scrum fosters synchronization among development team members, helping them understand overall progress and coordinate to avoid overlap or duplication. Furthermore, by identifying obstacles, the team can adjust the work plan or ask for support from the product owner or Scrum Master to solve them. Role of the Scrum Master. The Scrum Master facilitates the daily Scrum, making sure the meeting runs on time and on target. If there are discussions that require further discussion, the Scrum Master can schedule separate meetings to resolve them, preventing the daily Scrum from extending beyond 15 minutes. Sprint Review. The Sprint Review is a key event in the Agile Scrum development framework. Held at the end of each sprint to review and evaluate the work completed by the development team. During the Sprint Review, the development team and stakeholders come together to review product increment during the sprint and get feedback to guide future development. The Sprint Review is a crucial time to get feedback, evaluate the completed work and adjust the development path. Contributes to transparency, collaboration and stakeholder satisfaction, enabling the development team to continuously improve the product and development process. Sprint Review key points. Frequency and duration. The Sprint Review takes place at the end of each sprint and is usually limited to a maximum of 4 hours, depending on the length of the sprint and the needs of the team. Participants. Participants in the Sprint Review include the development team, product owner, Scrum Master, and key stakeholders such as end user, customer, or other stakeholder representatives. The goal is to engage those who have an interest in the product or can provide meaningful feedback. Increment presentation. During the Sprint Review, the development team presents the increment developed during the sprint. The enhancement should be functional, potentially releasable, and represent tangible progress over the product. The development team can demonstrate implemented features or view completed items. Feedback and discussion. Stakeholders present during the sprint review have the opportunity to provide feedback on the work completed by the development team. They can express comments, suggestions, requests for changes or clarifications. The sprint review fosters an open discussion between the development team and stakeholders to evaluate the increment and better understand the needs and expectations of end users. Product backlog review. The sprint review may also include a review of the product backlog by the product owner. During this review, the product owner can update the backlog, making changes to priorities, user stories, or product elements based on new information that emerges during the sprint or feedback from stakeholders. Planning for the next sprint. The sprint review can also serve as a basis for planning for the next sprint. The product owner and development team can use the feedback received during the sprint review to refine the product backlog, set new priorities, and select items for inclusion in the next sprint during the next sprint planning. Project status updates. During the sprint review, the development team can provide stakeholders with an update on the overall status of the project. This may include information on overall progress, challenges faced, and future plans. Sprint retrospective. The sprint retrospective, also known as retrospective, is an event held at the end of every sprint in the SCRUM framework. Its purpose is to allow the development team to reflect on the experience of the sprint that just ended and identify improvement opportunities for the next sprint. The sprint retrospective is a time for reflection and learning for the development team. It fosters a culture of continuous improvement and allows the team to adapt and grow over subsequent sprints. Sprint retrospective key points. Frequency and duration. The sprint retrospective is held at the end of each sprint and is usually limited to a maximum of 3 hours. Duration may vary based on team size and length of sprint. Participants. Participants in the sprint retrospective include the development team, product owner, and Scrum Master. It is an opportunity for the development team to come together in a secure and open environment, without the presence of external stakeholders. Purpose. The sprint retrospective aims to reflect on the sprint experience, review what went well, identify areas that can be improved, and plan corrective actions for the next sprint. The goal is to promote continuous improvement and increasing effectiveness of the development team. Structured discussion. During the sprint retrospective, the development team participates in a structured discussion that can follow different methodologies, such as the what went well, what didn't go well, what can be improved, or the start, stop, continue. These methodologies guide the team through an objective evaluation of the sprint and facilitate the identification of opportunities for improvement. Identifying actions. During the sprint retrospective, the development team identifies specific actions that can be taken to improve their development process. These actions may relate to work organization, communication, improvement of practices, or other areas of concern. It is important that the actions identified are specific, measurable, achievable, and have a positive impact on the development team. Process updates. The sprint retrospective can lead to changes to the development process. If recurring problems or inefficiencies are identified, the development team can suggest changes to the way they work, practices, or tasks they perform throughout the sprint. These updates can be discussed and evaluated to improve team efficiency and effectiveness. Continuity of retrospectives. It is important to maintain continuity in conducting retrospectives to ensure that the development team can learn from previous sprints and make constant improvements over time. Each retrospective provides an assessment of previous actions and generates new ideas for team progress. Sprint execution. During the execution of the sprint, the development team works to complete the activities of the sprint backlog. This involves working together on a daily basis, managing obstacles, and constantly updating progress. We have reached the end of the Scrum methodology. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact us. It will be an opportunity to explore the topics covered and clarify any doubts. Subscribe to our channel Agile Training Center and share it with your friends. End episode 3.